Hello. Another talk. I'm Sarup, application engineer from 96Boards. Fair bit of you know me. Today we are talking about 96Boards Mezzanine community. Give a bit of update on that. We did a small session during Hong Kong Connect, and so it's kind of specific to 96Boards Mezzanine community. We may talk about the mezzanine ecosystem in general as well. So what's a mezzanine? It's an add-on board. We have two headers on a CE spec board, the low speed and the high speed header. A mezzanine is sort of a board that plugs on top of it that uses those headers to then extend the capabilities of the base board. Um, so you can have pretty much whatever you want on there. Laptops, USB, or low-level peripherals, camera mezzanines, and stuff like that. So that's kind of short. The mezzanine community. So this community was started, I'd say a year ago, where a bunch of people got together, and the idea was to have open source mezzanine designs and kind of templates available for people who want to develop their own mezzanine. So it's not a hurdle to go ahead and create your own mezzanine even for an individual. That was the mezzanine community's initiative. Provide open source templates, host open source designs. So we host the designs on GitHub, and host ideas. We have an issue section where you can provide any mezzanine ideas, and then we tend to discuss on them on our bi-weekly meeting. And yeah, so again, as I said, hosted on this GitHub URL, which is maintained by Michael Welling. He's very good hardware engineer, very driven towards open source hardware. So he was very much willing to help us out. We have bi-weekly meetings, and then we make meeting notes if you want to take a look at them. And then each mezzanine, we also have a very open license system. So each mezzanine has its own license. You want to have it under BSD, that's fine. You have to have it under GPL, which might not make that much sense for hardware stuff, but you want to have it under whatever license you want. You can do that and upload your design files. So this is kind of what we sort of talked about this already, to provide a base template, and for various CAD software we have Altera, EagleCAD, KeyCAD templates already there. You are more than welcome to add your own. And then for individual licensing, there's a staging folder for someone who wants to host project files and documentation for mezzanines that aren't open source or haven't been open source yet. So they can do that. And all open source projects are free to copy and manufacture. Again, that also depends on the individual licensing, but what Michael Welling creates or what any other 96 board member people create, those are all free to copy, and you can manufacture and sell them. We'll be happy to comply with that. How to get involved with the community itself, report issues, open, give us ideas what we want, what you guys want to have developed, and submit new board designs if you are into open source hardware. Again, submit ideas, and most importantly, join our bi-weekly call. That's where all the discussion happens. We do also have a Discord 96Boards Mezzanine channel, but that's for more or less general mezzanine stuff and not specific to mezzanine community. So there might be a bit more noise in there. So it's better to just join on our bi-weekly calls, and we'll be happy to entertain you all. So we had a few boards updated and added on to the mezzanine since I last talked. So we have the MicroMez from Barry. It's his personal project, but he works at Qualcomm, so the licensing stuff took a while. It's been talked for a bit. So now it's available under open source license. We have the I2S audio mezzanine, which is right now up on GroupGets if anyone wants to buy that. I'll have a link in a later slide. So that has a bunch of I2S. We'll see that in detail. We have the proto mezzanine. I updated the design a little bit, and we have the XX1509 GPIO expansion mezzanine, which is still under review. So this is the micro mezz, bunch of stuff just to play around with. Kind of a demo board. We have an OLED screen that's directly connected over SPI, a sensor, and a few push buttons. This is the I2S mezzanine. This was, I think, one of our most comprehensive mezzanine on the repository. So we have two TI stereo DACs and 4 channel ADCs and a bunch of 3.5 jack headers. And then this is also one of the stackable ones, so you can put other mezzanines on top. This was a small update I did, just kind of to play around with KeyCat for the first time. We cut down the size, so this won't cover the full board, so the connectors are left open. So like this area is there's where the USB connectors would be, so we don't want people to plug things over there. And yeah, so it just breaks out the low speed header into a bunch of 2.5 mm pitch, and then we have just some breadboard styled sockets in there. So this is the SX1509 GPIO. Again, this is something I built from scratch, just to kind of try KeyCat out, but we are trying to experiment with a couple of things on this one. So it's a single GPIO expansion chip over I2C. It has two banks of 8 pins each, so 16 pin GPIO. You can get them. They can be of multiple logic levels independent of what the host is. So 1.8 volts can be stepped up to 5 volts. That's fine. It has an inbuilt LED driver, but most importantly, we are also going to add, I'm also going to add the I2C EEPROM just to have money and other people who are interested in this try it out for loading DD overlays. So this is kind of a work in progress, and once I add that, once the mezzanine is added, we'll probably build a couple of them and have people try it out. So that's our total board count for the mezzanines we already have and the new ones that have been added. So in this year, what we want to do is sort of start with making this a bit more visible. So we have the mezzanine community landing page, which is kind of bare bones right now. We are going to restructure that properly. Restructure our bi-weekly calls that has kind of dropped in number of attendees that were there at one point. So we have to restructure that, maybe have half of it live streamed so that a lot of people can just watch us and join us, and half of it like internal meeting where we can discuss designs. And we were talking about having a mezzanine design contest at one point with our EDI, and the reason was the idea was that people will design these open source mezzanine using EDI parts, and EDI would sponsor it. So we got kind of overworked, and we forgot about that. Yeah.
So real quick, basically the idea is that we feel the 96 Boards Community Mezzanine Initiative has served its original purpose. Sorry, I'm talking really low. I'm feeling a little under the weather. But so the 96 Boards Mezzanine community has somewhat served its purpose. We brought out the initial design files. We have sent in for manufacturing. We got our PCBs brought to us. We tested the mechanical plugging into our different boards, the high-speed header, the low-speed header for our 3 different templates all work. We have proven designs. Community have adopted our designs, used them, contributed back. That was one of our other goals. Now, we don't want to just stop there. The idea here is to, once again, try and build out more of what is the 96 Boards influence. What can 96 Boards now approach and attack next? And seeing as though 2019 has been somewhat for us, very busy this last quarter, in Linaro as a whole, we want to take this initiative along with some of our other initiatives to the next level, and the next level is trying to build more influence. And with that being said, we're trying to kind of come up with ways to bring more value to our partners. So if there are any partners, and I do see many partners here in the audience, if there are any partners who are working on mezzanines beyond what is the mezzanine community, we want to showcase your products, and we want to start creating new ways to showcase your products with the resources and with the different channels that we have going on. And so one of the things right here, which is on the second bullet point, which is what we're calling Mezzanine Monday, and if you start looking, I mean, if anyone is like a YouTuber or someone who watches YouTube, you know, you get these like catchy little buzzwords, people doing like Tech Talk Tuesday, and you know, so now we have Mezzanine Monday. And every other Monday, what we want to do is we want to showcase or completely break down top to bottom a mezzanine. And I think that at this point, we have enough mezzanines out there to where we can just break down one mezzanine every other week. And I think that as they're being released, I don't think we'll ever really run out of mezzanines, as far as I can tell. So that being said, join us on Mezzanine Monday. The first half of the call will be brainstorming sessions and figuring out ways to drive, as a committee, say, the mezzanine initiative forward, bringing out more templates, et cetera, but also finding new and engaging ways to bring value to our partners. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
As part of that Mezzanine Monday, are you gonna like put it on YouTube afterwards so the people that were on the call can watch it?
It will be a live stream, actually. So the first half of the call will be a brainstorming session with the partners. Any partners can come in, communicate with our community. And then the second half will be, okay, well, who doesn't want to be on camera anymore? Now we're going to actually stream this. We have all of our stuff set up so we can stream directly to YouTube, and this will become a consistent and hopefully growing thing that we will start to do. So every other week, hopefully, we start getting more and more viewers. And Sahaj has his own YouTube channel that he's growing out with tens of thousands of subscribers. And we'll hopefully utilize some of his skills, the skills of our other engineers, and we'll start, building out a little mezzanine community around this and just breaking down hardware in an open source way, open source hardware.
Right, so we have
Thank you. Sorry about that.
we have a few of our hardware people here, members. So I do have a question to you all. So we've had some problems. The first one is we tried to sell a few of these designs that were actually pretty good, but on a crowdfunding platform. Now that hasn't worked out for us. So do you think, is it the cost, or is it the fact that it's on a crowdfunding platform where people have to pay first, wait, and then receive the board?
Okay, so first of all, what we're talking about is two mezzanines that have been released.
Yeah, so the mezzanines that have been released are the GPS mezzanine, which is a very basic one, and then the I2S mezzanine. The GPS mezzanine was about 50 USD, and the I2S one was about $100.
So I've been kind of following the GPS thing, and I guess my response to that is a question back is, I do this going on inside of admin as well. It's like, we're all engineers at heart, and we're not really good marketing people and understanding what the market wants. What steps are being taken during these programs to make sure that the mezzanine that's being created is something that is actually being demanded by the community, and not just some great idea that we think there will be a lot of demand for.
So we tried a couple of things on the forum. Whatever questions and requests were there, we tried that. That's how the I2S mezzanine comes, because a bunch of people who wanted to test the I2S, the audio stuff on the IK960 wanted to buy that. And then with the GPS one also, there were some requests on the forum, because I think Dragon Board sometimes has issues running GPS when you're inside. So those were the ideas, and then we tried to have like a form a Google form, but we didn't receive a ton of responses to be like very, to tell specifically what the people want, so that didn't work out that well. But the forum stuff did, and I mean, these mezzanine did get funded halfway or a bit more than halfway, but even with the lower quantity of like 50 units, it was still kind of an issue for us.
Yeah, I mean, I view it as like just growing pains. I think it's a great idea that you're doing the crowdfunding. I think that's a great way to go. I think one of the challenges that I've gotten back from our field team, and we've looked at that, is if one of these projects does get crowdfunded at the the threshold to build the boards, what happens after that? If people come afterwards and they say, oh, here's that I2S mezzanine that I've been looking for, how do I get one? It's already been built, and there's nowhere to go buy one off the shelf.
So we do crowdfunding through GroupGets, and they have a partnership with Spark Fund. So if the projects get funded successfully, they go over to Spark Fund and they install it.
Okay, all right, great. That wasn't obvious. Thank you.
We've been trying really hard to get one of these mezzanines funded, and in one of the cases, it was for the I2S mezzanine. We jumped on that one not only because of what was on the forums, but Google wanted it. And then, it turns out that at some point, it turns out that they didn't need it by the time, by the time it made it through the mezzanine community. At that point now, they no longer needed it, and so the units just never ended up getting sold. Either way, I do think it is a lot having to do with growing pains, but. At the end of the day, again, the mezzanine community wasn't really intended to, let's just say, reach to the point of crowdfunding or trying to sell thousands or whatever of these units. It was to, help people build a one-off that they might need for themselves as well, right? So there are multiple reasons to do this. Also, to give ideas to our partners. And so if you see a mezzanine on there that you like, then, Avnet could scoop it up and say, okay, well, this seemed interesting enough. Let me utilize the engineering resources that have already been pushed in here with the open source license, and et cetera, take forward as your own.
And the second point is open source hardware not all right way to
Yeah, sorry about that. Wanted to follow up on something you said. How engaged are kind of the hobbyist places like the Spark Funds and the Adafruits and things like that with 96 boards in general, and can they start to shoulder some of that load?
Adafruit actually, Lady Ada just reached out to me not too long ago. We're starting to work with them, and hopefully this will turn into somewhat more of a partnership. It's been something that we've wanted to do a long time. Sahaj, maybe you could speak a little bit more specifically as to what we began enabling with them.
Yeah, so we began enabling the circuit and stuff. So on the hardware side, we've always had complaint because all the Pi stuff and the Arduino stuff runs at 5 volts, 3.3 volts, and having modules for that, like no one's willing to do that. Adafruit's not willing to do that because the market isn't that big. So that's one of the reasons why we started this, was to build 1.8 volt mezzanines and just tell them, here's the design files, sell it.
In many cases, you end up with a module that actually steps it down to step it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you're talking about technically seems that hard.
Yeah, again, then there's a concern about open source hardware. Are people too concerned to open source their designs? And is that one of the reasons that that more designs aren't coming our way into the repository? And so again, this is also questions to our partner, is what kind of discussions, because we've had concerns about the mezzanine meeting being a bit more empty, but again, we don't have many people show up, people just start dropping. So what are the kind of discussions that might interest you guys?
I mean, for me, it's all about the end application and what you can do with it, right? If you just put the hardware out there and see who comes, you're less likely to attract attention than if you say, this specifically does this. Even if it has 100 other uses, you have a use you can launch it with, it's much more appealing to developers or in general, and you get some of this viral, oh, you know, I can do, even if it's a smart garden or, you know,
I think that kind of also connects to the point, the marketing point that was made earlier, is that when we put a board to sell, like I don't have that board to make the marketing material for it. So I think that's kind of something that we
yeah,
might.
or maybe educational use cases. If you can get someone to develop some educational curriculum around a mezzanine board and underlying boards, and then have a specific example, and people can, you know, offer workshops or classes out of it. Awesome.
So I think going back to it though, is like, you know, thank you very much, by the way. The mezzanine community has in a way already served its purpose, right? So like we got to the point where now people can consume these templates, they can create their own mezzanines and contribute them back, and or just do a one-off on their own. They don't need us, right? So it exists, it's there, you have it, there's the links. If you want to consume it, awesome. The steps forward now are you know, us looking towards bringing again more value to our partners, whether this be through access to our community on the first half of these calls, or through visibility and influence. And this is what we're trying to get and build in the 96Boards ecosystem, is this sense of influence where we can now start pushing things out and people will use it. And so, I mean, to Kathy's point, I think it's a very good idea, you know, pulling forward use cases and accenting different pieces of content that we make, you know, content that we make or that the community makes, and there's so many things out there that people are building and we just don't showcase it enough. And so we're trying to really push these things forward. We're trying to work with our partners and work with our community to showcase all these things. But yeah, so that's the goal, more influence and more showcasing of the amazing things that people are doing. So if anyone out here would like to start participating in these calls, we definitely do welcome you to do so.
I guess,
Yeah.
questions now.
All right. Oh, yeah. Oh, did you want to go?
So I just want to kind of elaborate on, is it Kathy? Is that your name?
Kathy, yeah.
Kathy, so I think you brought up something that is really interesting to me, is I think there's a lot of technical folks here. Go back to like what I said, we're not really good, all that good at marketing. Are there services that Linaro can offer engineers who do bring a mezzanine design to the community to help market that beyond a technical capability into a particular application, so that it can receive more adoption throughout the community, rather than just saying, okay, well, here's a board, and then people look at that and say, well, I'm not sure exactly what to do with that board.
So it's a bit of a, I don't think I don't really need it, I guess. It's a bit of a chicken and egg thing. So like what's happening right now is we initially started and tried to launch our own project section at 96boards.org, right? So you go to 96boards.org/projects. And it turns out that we're a little bit behind the curve on that. So when it comes to community being able to contribute projects to our website, not very straightforward. They have to go back into our backend repository, fork it, submit contributions, get pull requests, blah, blah, blah. It's not easy. Then we launched our own org, and so that people could then submit to a staging area. Again, not easy. Sites like Hackster.io, sites like Hackaday, these are the kind of sites that, Instructables, these are sites that have a very friendly user interface that pings SEO online. When you do searches, these things start popping up, et cetera, et cetera. These are the sites that now we are going to start focusing on, because when you're talking about marketing, right, we say, okay, well, we want to launch this on GroupGets. GroupGets communicates with SparkFun. SparkFun sends it out on their newsletter. And then GroupGets sends it out on theirs. They put it on their website, on their social media. These things are getting, you know, several retweets and a bunch of likes, and people want it. People are going in there. However, I don't think there are enough people, the right people, seeing it. And so there are also not enough projects out there that people are showcasing in the right places. And so this is what we want to try doing. We want to try building out the visibility of it all. And marketing-wise, does 96Boards and Linaro offer any of that kind of stuff? Not technically. However, again, this is something that we are trying to build out in 96Boards. One of our big goals is to reach a level of visibility within our channels Just recently, even our YouTube channel passed Linaro's YouTube channel. So like, I mean, our subscriber rate is going up higher and higher. We're seeing tens of % of increase per month, right? So our overall goal for this year, we're being very ambitious, trying to hit 500% increase by the end of 2019, which will give us somewhat of an influencer status, like a legitimate influencer status across all these different channels. When you reach those types of levels, you start to, and this is all organic, we don't pay for our marketing, right? So we don't put money out there. A lot of companies go put money on their marketing, sponsored campaigns, et cetera. We don't do that, we all organic growth. And so this, we feel, will bring more value to our partners in this marketing aspect, where we can sit down, have a voice call, video call, structure out a nice marketing campaign around one of your products, and then help push through programs like Mezzanine Monday and get you on a call and do stuff that will actually be visible and notable within the ecosystem. So I think that's what we're trying. Are we at time? All right, so I don't know if you want to close it. Did you want something, John, there? Sorry about that.
All right, thank you everyone, and I think, I hope people join, or at least visit the repository once, take a look around, see what's there, and then hope to see you in one of our bi-weekly calls.